What's up, everybody? Let's do this. First thing first, the name LUI. Secondly, the game. It is the game of bodybuilding slash Mr. Olympia prep. Thirdly, the subject. It is not John De La Rosa. Now, John De La Rosa is this huge gentleman training, as you guys know, in Kuwait at Boo Bunder's Oxygen slash Anabolic Chicken Gym. You can admire Nathan Diasha, admiring him there. He looks absolutely massive. Can you imagine that this gentleman will be doing battle at the 212 category? How will he fit there? He looks too big. He looks humongous. He looks heavy in a sense, right? But the talk is not about him. It is about another gentleman that basically shared with us some off-season picture lately, namely Mr. Kevin Levrone. And to be honest with you guys, these pictures triggered much debate online on forums, and quite frankly, let's not sugarcoat it. He does not look that big. He does not look impressive whatsoever. I mean, this gentleman will do battle in the biggest stage of them all, the Super Bowl of bodybuilding, Mr. Olympia, where the big boys are at. This is not freaking NPC. I mean, this is like, you know, freaking Phil Heath, Boo Bunder, Dexter Jack, and the rest of the field. And quite frankly, he does not look nearly as impressive as that cover magazine of muscular development. Let's not sugarcoat it. Now, he is not that fat, but if you know a thing or two about bodybuilding, well, first of all, I don't like this movement personally. I don't do the T-bar. It absolutely does not salute my lower back. Quite risky movement. I don't like it, right? But nonetheless, as I mentioned, at this stage, usually, you know, these bodybuilders are polishing the product. Right now, what's his name? Actually, Big Ramy weighs around 320 pounds, right? Will he be bigger? Will he grow into the show? No, he would absolutely be lighter by at least 20, 25 pounds, if not 30 pounds, right? So everybody's doing the same thing. Boo Bunder will be smaller. Phil Heath, everybody is shedding weight in a sense. So what is the strategy of Kevin Levrone? Did he actually underestimate the aging factor? Because of course he's around 50. He says he's like 49, I think. But still, that is, you know, that's not the same ball game as when he was 13 years ago when he retired. Are the androgen receptors still loyal? We don't know. As I mentioned quite frequently, he is in uncharted territory. Is by a long shot the healthiest dude from this, you know, the quote-unquote 90s golden era. That's for sure. That's a given. He's healthier than Sean Ray, than Flex Wheeler, who had, you know, kidneys problem. Dorian Yates, countless injuries that retired him in 1997. And of course, Ronnie Coleman, slew of injuries and surgeries. Baby, please. There were some other guys who were quite good when they were old. For instance, may he rest in peace, Sonny Schmidt. You guys probably don't recall this guy, but he is a Mr. Olympia Masters. So he was still this big, well, in his 40s. So was another Mr. Olympia Masters, Mr. Vince Taylor. This guy was an assassin. This guy was doing battle since actually he was already a veteran, an old guy in Lee Haney's era. I think he is older than Lee Haney and Lee Labrada, and he was placing like third back in the day, right? Of course, we still have until today the vampire of them all, Dexter Jackson. Dude is 46. Every year, some people forecast that he is done. He is basically finished. But this year, actually, a few months ago, he took the New York Pro. Now, granted, Boo Bunder here came in really close. As a matter of fact, I think that Boo Bunder lost the show in the morning. He was not as good, as polished as the night showing, right? So that's what's up. Will he fade Dexter this year? I don't think so. Even though he was absolutely dwarfed, senseless here by Boo Bunder. For the record, this most muscular pose, the crab one here, I think it is the most impressive ever. Nobody comes even close. Even the late Nasser Al-Sambari was not this impressive. He's just saturated. There is no void. He cannot close it even more. Even more impressive than Mr. Olympia Phil Heath, that I can tell you. He dwarfed, he outmuscled Dexter Jack, and I reckon if he came with this shape in the morning, he would have basically won the New York Pro. And to be noted, he was sick actually in the Arnold Classic South Africa. But the talk is not about him. It is about the old gentleman next to him. 46-year-old, he was still rolling. Now, if we take a look at some off-season pictures of Kevin Levrone to do, a comparison, he was massive back then. It has nothing to do with the pictures revealed to us this weekend. He was a monster of a man. He had some trouble walking, absolutely being saturated. Flabs were still showing, so he never got into that crazy bulk. This was another era actually, where you can see that he was not as big as the previous one, but still, he was still a thick mofo, vascularity and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, as you guys know, when he came back to the off season, he was off the vitamins. Sometimes he was looking like this. This is the same dude, right? Now, granted, this was after his retirement. For sure, he became small as hell. But even back in the day, if you go back in the 90s, let's say, 95 off season, he probably looked like this too, right? He was absolutely off, the consumption of creatine and glutamine, if you guys know what I mean. And he looked pretty much human. You would never guess that this gentleman is one of the best bodybuilders in the world. He was athletic pretty much all year long, and then next thing you know, he comes back and he becomes a monster. Now, last week, one of his friend, the Sultan of Symmetry, Mr. Flex Wheeler, said that Sean Ray is wrong about Levrone. So do we know better than Flex Wheeler? But then again, is Flex right or is Sean Ray right? Both are supposedly his friend. Although, if you ask me, it's a special friendship in a sense. So we will see how it goes. Kevin can become like this in off season, and then you will see him small. And then in the press conference, he comes like this. He was absolutely massive. Will he grow into a show this year? Will he up that T? You know what I mean by T, vitamin T, right? And next thing you know, he shows up in the conference like this. It is I don't know. To be honest with you guys, I cannot even. It's a wild guess. I mean, be my guest. Your guess is mine. Thing is, there are two versions that I personally like of Kevin Levrone, and they're in two separate realms. The first one is 1995 when he placed second to Dorian Yates. Interestingly enough, he was big. He was massive. He entered the mass game to be able to do battle versus Yates and the late Nasser Al-Sambari. He had no choice, right? So he was like a part of the big four. Now look at this mass. He was absolutely massive. As I mentioned, he placed second to Dorian Yates. Back then, Ronnie Coleman was still in the quote-unquote do I even lift. Ronnie Coleman was not even a prospect of Mr. Olympia as of yet. As a matter of fact, I was reading Flex magazine made in France back then, and the journalist who was writing an article about him, he said Ronnie Coleman is just a mixture of muscle groups. It doesn't flow well. It's like you have shoulders connected with triceps and biceps. It doesn't look good. I mean, people were discarding him. He was not even a prospect. The guy behind him is Porter Cottrell. Actually, Porter Cottrell was the ex-training partner of Mr. Kevin Levrone, and believe me, they looked alike. So Porter Cottrell is like a small version of Kevin Levrone. I think he is a fireman, or he was a fireman. So nonetheless, so this is one of the versions that he can be aiming for. Damn, the back of Yates. The back of Yates is a game changer. Just a take-home muscle group for that Brit dude. So this is it. Will he come like massive like this, a mass monster? I don't think so. Quite frankly, I don't think it is feasible. We're not going to see this 8 weeks from now. It's just not doable. You cannot build this granite, monstrous, humongous, ginormous muscular development. Can we all agree on that? It's just not. I'm not hating. I love Kevin. I spoke to Kevin. I'm one of his biggest fans. But let's be honest. Let's be realistic. Can you imagine him after basically seeing those pictures released this weekend that he will acquire this muscle and be this diced to the socks condition? It's just not feasible, right? So the only option he still has is the 1992 version in Helsinki, when again he placed second to Dorian Yates, and he was just 1 point behind him. I think he was, of course, way smaller. You can admire the death face mask. The cheekbones are absolutely to be saluted. He was absolutely smaller, streamlined, feathers in the outer head. Teardrop all day and every day. Is this what he is shooting for? That's my only guess. Because there is no way in hell he will acquire the muscular development that we have seen in 1995 and above. And he kept that forever. Go back to the British Grand Prix 1998, he was that big. 2000 Mr. Olympia, he was that big until his retirement, right, in 2002. So that is my guess. My guess is that he is probably shooting for the streamlined, more aesthetic 1992. These pictures are pretty much forgotten about him. It was his first Mr. Olympia appearance, and he placed second. And it was pretty much he could have actually won Mr. Olympia. As you guys know, back then Joe Weider was given it by politics. He was banking on the charisma, on the potential of the athletes, and he just went with the known, more secure value of Dorian Yates, because Dorian Yates was coming from a second place to Lee Haney in 1991 Mr. Olympia. He won also the Night of Champion that same year, right? And he placed second in the Night of Champion to Momo Benaziza in 1990. So he had like a rolling spree. He was somehow of a more secure value, and that's why Kevin Levrone did not take the nod. But trust me, if they gave Mr. Olympia to 1992, nobody would have complained that they were very, very close. As a matter of fact, in some point actually, Kevin was better than the still intact biceps of Dorian Yates back then. As a matter of fact, I speculate that Dorian Yates became a monster because of Kevin Levrone. He was afraid of this streamlined look, so he gained, he upped the vitamin G, if you guys know what I mean, to up his game, and he became a monster in 1993. So that's it, guys. Let's geek out about it. Tell me what you guys think about it. What is your reaction to these pictures, actually? Let's go back and see them really quick. We will see also another quote-unquote old veteran in the game, namely Mr. Victor Martinez. This was this weekend where he won the Baltimore show. First time I see him doing the crucifix pose, almost with a vacuum. Looks absolutely legit. He needs some, some polishing, some fit and finish work, especially in the legs development. Although I know that he has injured, one of his quadricep, but he can actually improve that. Hopefully we'll see the best version of him in Mr. Olympia. So these are the pictures again, guys. As I mentioned, quite frankly, I don't think it is feasible, humanly feasible, even for a genetic freak that is Kevin Levrone, to recover that huge mass that I mentioned to you and I showed you in 1995 and above. It's just not feasible. So if he is basically sticking to a plan, I think that he is shooting for a 1992 smaller, more aesthetic look. Tell me what you guys think about it. God bless you all day and every day, bro.